I've been wanting to share my thoughts on one of the internet's most controversial plant-based health experts, Bryan Johnson, for a long time.
He literally looks like a lizard person. That's the goal.
Tech millionaire Bryan Johnson
trying to reverse the aging of his body.
Spending $2 million a year.
The world's most measured human.
This may be the most revolutionary shift in the history of Homo sapiens.
All right, it's now the day after I've gone through a 1-week period of living like Bryan Johnson, and I would love to share my wins, some of my results from this past week. I got a DEXA scan this morning. I'd like to share some of my critiques about the Blueprint protocol, and then I'll share my overall thoughts as well about this week and the Blueprint protocol. So up first, we have big wins. I really enjoyed trying Bryan Johnson's routine. It's one thing to watch him do everything in a YouTube video. It's another thing to actually go through and do it for real. Another big win, I really enjoyed doing his oral care routine, and that is something that I just need to be taking more seriously. I did it this morning, and I intend to continue doing that as well. Another win, I really enjoyed the Blueprint stack. I will certainly finish up this 1-month supply. I'm probably going to continue ordering this because I think it has a ton of value. I still need to kind of wrap my head around olive oil and shift my perspective there a little bit, but Bryan actually calls olive oil his, quote, #1 food for anti-aging, which is, that's quite a statement. And I've looked into the research that Bryan lists on his website regarding the health benefits of high quality olive oil. Now, 3 tablespoons a day, that still strikes me as being excessive. 15% of your total calories, that's a heck of a lot. But I think I'll use the olive oil here and there and just kind of see how it goes. And I'll continue learning more about some health benefits of that and see if I want to continue including it in my diet. I also really enjoyed elements of his exercise routine. It was not easy, but I really enjoyed challenging myself with flexibility and some more bodyweight exercises than I'm used to doing. And it was just a really great reminder of incorporating flexibility work more into my training. The last big win, I really appreciated the amount of plant diversity that I got in my diet this week. We counted up all of the different numbers of fruits and vegetables and plants that I ate over this week, and the total came to 56 unique plants. That's a heck of a lot of plant diversity, and that is just phenomenal for gut health. So that was a big win, and it was a good reminder to increase the number of plants that I eat in my normal diet. All right, up next, let's talk about my results. So I got my DEXA scan done. I dropped 3.4 pounds over the course of 1 week. The results from the DEXA scan were pretty wild. This is 5 pounds of body fats. That is a heck of a lot. And according to DEXA, I lost 60% of this total mass in 1 week. These DEXA scan results are way better than I was expecting, but I do feel like we seriously put in the work. We trained hard for 7 days. We nailed our nutrition. So my lean mass also dropped by a pound this past week, but that's not really concerning to me at all because I think that's just due to water weights. Based on my training and my nutrition, I do not think I lost anywhere close to an actual pound of muscle. And also I was pretty dehydrated when I got my scan. I only had a few sips of water the morning of, and I actually forgot to drink the rest of my smoothie yesterday. Your hydration will affect your lean muscle mass numbers, but it will not affect your body fat numbers. So the body fat should be very accurate. All right, it's time to confront the sleep score. So my Whoop sleep score average over this week was 93%. 93% average. We had a low of 85% and a high of 100%. My recovery scores were pretty bad from this past week. 55%, 43%, 39%, 49%, 33%, 57%, 66%. I think this might actually be the biggest disappointment for me this week. I think that fiber had a big impact on my sleep, and I did not follow Bryan's eat dinner at 11 a.m. eating strategy. That was probably the most challenging aspect of this entire week, was just trying to get the meals in as early as possible. I think that if I had been following Bryan's wind down routine, his whole kind of sleep evening routine, but eating more of my style diet that is easier on my digestive system, that would make it a lot easier. And I think I actually would have slept better following my nutrition approach. So I saw firsthand why Bryan actually eats dinner at 11 a.m. I haven't heard him talk about this, but I imagine he started the protocol not eating dinner at 11 a.m. and having some issues with his sleep. He had to shift his dinner earlier and earlier in the day, and then basically got it to as early as he possibly could get it, which for him is 11 a.m. Eating dinner at 11 a.m., that might solve the digestive issues. It seems to have done that for him. But if you're consuming another 500 calories beyond what he is eating because you need more calories, that's really tough. I think the only way that would end up working for me is if I dropped 30 pounds and got down to Bryan's weights, and then I don't need as many calories, so then I could follow his eating plan, and then I just get everything really dialed in. I could have blended everything and just chugged some smoothie and felt like absolute dog shit, and the smoothie would not taste good. Maybe I could have done it. If the calorie density of your food is that low, you're basically force feeding yourself to get in all the calories as quickly as possible, and then you do that knowing that later in the day, you're gonna be starving. So let's jump into my critiques about Blueprint. So the first one, which I mentioned numerous times, is that a 10% calorie deficit is not sustainable, period, end of story. The important thing to remember is that a 10% calorie deficit is a moving target. Does Bryan maintain a 10% calorie deficit for a while and then go back to maintenance / a slight calorie surplus? Did he set his diet up as a 10% calorie deficit at the beginning, meaning he is no longer in a 10% calorie deficit and he's actually at calorie maintenance? I would be a lot more interested eating at calorie maintenance. That would make this so much more sustainable. That would completely change the sustainability of this diet, in my opinion.
I do caloric restriction, which means I consume less than the recommended daily allowance. I consume 2,250 calories a day.
Another critique that I touched on earlier, I do not believe that doing the same resistance training routine every single day, regardless of your goal, is optimal. All right, another critique, the Blueprint team does freely share a lot of different lunch and dinner recipes, which I very much appreciate and admire. However, many dishes did not meet my expectations for taste. Even with a whole food plant-based rating scale, I was not comparing them to vegan Ben & Jerry's cookie dough ice cream. I was comparing them to a whole food plant-based rating system. So if I remember correctly, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think the top score was 8 and it was some kind of lettuce wrap that was really good. There were a few other highlights, but there were more recipes that I felt kind of missed the mark. So I understand following the Blueprint protocol, we are not eating for taste, we are eating for health. And I totally respect that. For me personally, that is not a sustainable eating approach. It doesn't bring me much joy. That's really important to me. And that's also how we coach clients. And it has proven to get the best results and also sustainable results across the board for thousands of clients that we've worked with. And I think that will probably work best for most of you watching as well. One of our videographers, he's got a culinary background and he was making all my meals, which was a huge help. But I do not normally have a private chef who cooks all my meals, and you probably don't have a private chef either. If you don't have a private chef, if you have commitments with children, if you have to go to work at 8 or 9 a.m., like most people typically do, I don't know where you find the time to do this. I could not make time for anything else in the morning. There's no way I could have had meetings or done other work outside of just following Blueprint. Now, I understand Bryan is not advocating for everyone to do exactly what he is doing. So keep that in mind. He's not saying this is the only way of doing it and you need to follow suit or else you're not going to get the benefits. He really emphasizes taking baby steps. But if you're trying to follow exactly what Bryan is doing, I don't think you could follow Bryan's routine if you have a job and you don't have a private chef. Where there's a will, there's a way. Could you figure it out? Probably. You could probably do something, but it's going to be exceptionally challenging. And you need your schedule to be dialed in. Those are all my critiques. And yeah, Bryan, if you happen to be watching, again, I just really appreciate everything that you're doing. And that kind of leads me to my overall thoughts. I think that the work that Bryan and his team are doing is truly phenomenal. And I do believe Blueprint is going to have a big impact in the world. I really, really align with Bryan's overall goals and his overall approach to health and fitness being rooted in wholesome plant-based nutrition with a heavy emphasis on using data and science to make informed decisions that guide our health and fitness journey. He says that he's likely the most measured man in history from everything that I've seen. I believe that is accurate. And I just really appreciate that Bryan is willing to take the lead in this endeavor and not just sit behind a computer and theorize about what is possible, but actually be the one doing it and demonstrating what's possible. Massive, massive respect for that. Another overall thought, Bryan said that, quote, "We are baby steps from creating super intelligence, and I hope that compassion is a scaling law of intelligence." I think that's a really beautiful idea, end quote. And he kind of uses that to explain his approach to ethical nutrition choices. In other words, he's vegan for ethical reasons. His diet is technically not 100% vegan because he does have collagen peptides and he has some heme iron. But I really don't want to be the vegan police, and I know that Bryan's heart is in the right place. I think it's more of a statement of appreciation for the fact that he is 99.9% vegan and he really aligns with a compassionate plant-based approach to taking care of his body and then also taking care of animals and the world. Based on all the research I've seen, there is no need to have any type of collagen supplement in your diet. And also non-heme iron, the plant-based version of iron, is way healthier compared to heme iron. That is pretty evident in the scientific literature. I don't know the hypothesis behind Bryan and his team including collagen peptides and heme iron into his nutrition, but I would be interested to hear about that.
Before I wrap up, I just want to give a huge thank you to Bryan Johnson and his team at Blueprints. And I also want to thank you for watching this video. What parts of Bryan's routine would you try, and what challenge should I do next? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to hearing from you.